Hi. Have you ever been called a waste of space? Anything similar to that? Has anyone ever insulted you in such a way as to invalidate your very existence? Sometimes people will imply that you just shouldn't be here. The world would be better off without you. I'm not sure that there's any more hurtful insult than to call someone a waste of space. I've had similar things said to me, and it hurts, and there's no other way around it. It's also something that can stick with a person. You can remember it for the rest of your life, even if it was said to you as a child. It might come back to haunt you at various stages. Anytime you feel like you've had a failure or a disappointment, that feeling of not belonging, not being needed, not being wanted, it can rear its ugly head, and it's a very difficult thing to talk yourself out of. So right now, I want to examine it. I want to talk about insults related to your waste of space. So who gets to determine what is a good use of space? Who deserves to take up space? And the closest comparison I can think of are plants, the plant world. Humans tend to assign value and worthiness in terms of monetary value. How much of a benefit are you to society? And let's think about modern society, especially in a capitalistic world. Your value to society can generally be boiled down to your monetary worth. How much you contribute. Do you have a good job? Do you have a marketable skill set? Do you have an impressive degree? A large amount of education in a field that is considered profitable? So, especially in today's society, even those skill sets, that work, that labor that you do, oftentimes isn't boiled down to how it benefits society, such as a lot of blue-collar jobs, a lot of labor jobs. They might actually provide essential, necessary services that we all require on a day-to-day basis. But generally, we don't always value those the way that we might jobs that really rake in larger amounts of money. And not only that, but even if your job doesn't pay that great, and let's face it, most jobs today don't. They haven't kept up with the cost of living. And so really it's a skill set that can be exploited. A set of skills, a set of resources, know-how that can be exploited by others. Maybe corporations, whatever, a boss of some sort. So, in my opinion, humans have a very skewed idea about value, inherent value. And when we think about the plant world, it's the same. We have labeled some plants as weeds, and we have labeled some plants as being of high value, usually those that we have hybridized and modified over the years for our own use. And these wild plants that just spring up on their own, that occur in nature, a lot of them we have tagged as weeds. Now, these weeds, we don't like them. We want them gone. We have whole industries devoted to the task of getting rid of these weeds. And when you really think about it, what is the hard and fast rule between what is a weed, what is undesirable, and what is a good plant? And why? Well, let's think about it. We've been brainwashed and told that a lawn that is exclusively some type of grass, and oftentimes people even go and buy the grass seeds to make sure the specific species of grass that they want growing in their lawn or whatever is growing. We can't even have the native grasses. It's got to be something, again, that we go out and we spend money, and then we have to fertilize this lawn. And if you live in a drier climate, it has to be watered regularly, and we have to go and buy poisons to spray on the weeds. And we have to spend all these hours crawling around, invest in expensive lawnmowers and lawn care products to make sure we have the quote-unquote correct plants growing in our yard. Why? Why is it unacceptable to have clover? Why is it unacceptable to have any of the natural native plants that we have growing in our yards? Well, it won't be green most of the year. It won't be this. It won't be that. Okay, why is that bad? Why do things have to be uniform? Why are we so adverse to the natural processes? Why are we adverse to the way plants can look over different seasons, over different weather conditions? Why are we so anal retentive about these things? And I don't really think that we naturally are, but we have been told to have these preferences. We have been conditioned and brainwashed to have these preferences because it makes corporations money. Lawn care is a huge industry, and especially a lot of the older generations would take great pride in having their lawns just so. I am not gonna complain about that. I'm not gonna say that's bad. I'm just pointing out how humans tag things as desirable or undesirable. And there are weeds out there that provide invaluable pollen and nectar for insect species, for hummingbirds, for all kinds of living things. These natural plants, these so-called weeds, they're necessary, and this is why we have collapsing populations of butterflies and all sorts of insects. And don't forget, a lot of bird species, a lot of animal species rely on these insects as well. So, as always, the effect is felt throughout the food chain, throughout the circle of life. And even some weeds are very, very edible. Some are nutritious. Some have some medicinal properties. So they're not all bad. And somehow we've been conditioned to hate them. I remember commercials when I was a kid about dandelions, about so-called weeds, and they would make them sentient and make them these little evil creatures. Oh, we're just so conditioned to hate all these things. And I can remember always thinking that dandelions were actually beautiful. That bright yellow color. They grow so readily. Lots of insects that love them. And the blossoms, they actually have such a good smell. Such a sweet, honey-like smell. And I always wondered why so many people just hated dandelions. And here's the thing. It's natural. They're natural. A lot of weeds are a perfectly natural form of life to be growing in yards and fields. And yet we've been trained to tag all that as bad. We've been conditioned. Who really makes the decision? And do we respect their ideas? Do we respect this person's ability to tell us what is good and bad? Do we agree with them? Or are we just going along because that's what we do in this society that we've created? And most of the time humans don't want to make waves, they don't want to disagree, they don't want to stand out. And that's rooted in a lot of survival instincts. A long, long time ago, if you were a rogue human outside of the tribe, outside of the village, what have you, you would probably die. You would probably be preyed upon by wild animals, probably starve to death, freeze to death, die from the elements. We needed others. And we still need others, but it's okay to be an individual. It's okay to totally be yourself. And no one has the right to tell you that you are a waste of space. They don't have that authority except within themselves. I mean, if someone says they don't like your favorite food, they don't like your favorite show, they don't like your favorite movie, they don't like your favorite band or song, do you just automatically stop liking that thing? Turn your back on it? Why would you do that to yourself? Why do we take these opinions seriously when they're about the most important thing, which is ourselves, who we are, our individual worth? Well, the truth is we shouldn't. And we know that the people who make these statements are oftentimes very hurt, very bitter people themselves. Sometimes, and I think it's important to face this, there's just people out there that are sadistic for whatever reason. They may be hurt people, they may not really be hurt people, but they enjoy causing pain. And you can't plead with people like that. You can't readily change their minds. You can't shed a tear and make them feel remorse because they don't. And the only thing you can do with people like that is move on. Feel your inner strength. Know that you have worth just because you're here. Through the miracle of life, the miracle of existence in this vast universe, you exist. Against all odds, you exist. And so you have worth. You have intrinsic worth. And sometimes you just have to Trade in the sorrow, the pain, and the loneliness that statements like that can make you feel. You have to trade it in for a little bit of healthy anger. Get a little bit of survival instinct. And even if it's just mentally within yourself, just disregard what they say. And, sometimes you just have to mentally just say, no, shut up, F you, whatever, however you want to phrase it in your mind, and go on with your life. And I'm not advocating that anyone confront people like this. It's probably best not to. And you just move on with your life. First of all, you have to become convinced that you don't need anyone else's permission to exist. You don't need anyone else's permission to take up space. And no one has to prove their worth in this life. You don't have anything to prove to anyone. You're worthy just because you're here. You take up that space. Doesn't matter what anyone says. You hold your head high and you live your life. And try to cultivate that sense of self-love, self-worth, self-respect. Look at the dandelions. They're out there every spring. They're gonna spring up. They're gonna be just as yellow as ever. They're gonna be out there. They don't care. They don't care what humans think. Humans can get mad. Humans can get out their little herbicides. Humans can get out there with their little shovels and whatever else. Dandelions, they're gonna dandelion, and they're gonna do what they do. And sometimes we just need to take a lesson from weeds. These arbitrary labels, these imaginary, worthless labels, and these lines between weed and flower. We just need to come along. We need to take our shoe and we just need to scuff up that line. We need to get out our water hose and just spray that line away, get rid of it, because it's not real. And it's gonna be okay. And words hurt, and that's okay too. It's okay to be hurt, but we don't need to live in that hurt, and we don't need to take what other people say and internalize it. It's ridiculous. It's not true. It's a load of crap. Someone says that to you, don't listen. Don't pay any attention to it. Move on. Do something nice for yourself. You have to be your own biggest advocate, your own biggest cheerleader, your own biggest fan. And that doesn't mean not to recognize when there's things you need to change, and always leave room in your life for growth, and always listen to criticism if it's coming from a kind place, a constructive place, someone who's maybe just trying to help you, because sometimes we are going down a bad path. But if someone's just trying to hurt you, no, that is just that is just a reflection of their own inner strife, their own inner turmoil, and some ugliness going on in there. But we don't have to come and live in that. We don't have to, like I said, we don't have to internalize it. You're great, and you're great right now, just the way that you are. And if your mind is open, your heart is open, you'll get better. And that is what we should strive for. Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening. Take care.